think a hot button topic in this day and age, and for reference, if you're watching this or listening to this later, it's around the end of October in 2022. And people are like, we're going into a recession. And I always think it's really funny that people always say we're going into a recession when once a recession is declared, you've actually been in the recession for quite a while. So by the time it gets in, the damage has already been done to the stock market, and now it's going up. So generally when a recession is declared, I think it's like something like the last 8 out of 10 times, by the time a recession is declared, the market is actually starting on its way back up. Everyone's feeling the after effects of this recession, right? So one of the things that a lot of our clients ask us about is we're seeing this coming. We're seeing some slowdown happening because the negative growth or flat growth is already here. What do we do about it? And so this is the first installment in kind of a series of a few episodes here that we're going to go over what we've recommended in the past, what's different about this time around, and how can you tackle this so that you can actually use a recession to win. And what does winning look like? It looks like a lot of different things, in my opinion, but ultimately, if you're looking at marketing and sales, like growth as a whole, generating demand, it looks like capturing market share, right? So if you're in an industry that in a recession shrinks, you can maintain your size in terms of top line revenue. You just need to capture enough market share to offset the overall negative growth. So what do I mean about this? If your market is losing 10%, that means that if you are just generating market losses, you're also going to lose 10%. However,
so if you're staying steady, you're actually ahead.
Exactly. So like, for example, if the market does negative 10%, but you do 0 up and down, you're actually ahead, which actually means that you fought against the current. So there's this famous like Warren Buffett quote that it says, don't look at the canoe, look at how fast, don't look at the canoe versus the shore, look at the canoe versus the river, right? And what does that mean? It's like, if the river is against you by 10% and you're holding steady versus the shore, you're actually winning, right? And so how do you judge a team's performance? It's like, well, you judge it versus the river, not the shore. So when we tell people you need to actually optimize and maybe even spend more on sales and marketing and demand gen, we are actually telling people the tactics that are needed and the strategies that are needed in order to hold their current position. On the flip side of this, there's actually a lot of opportunities to actually grow, and not just grow relative to market. There's actually a ton of opportunities to grow on an absolute value based on your top line revenue. And I think that the prevailing knowledge from like most, I think like financiers, like the CFO, etc., is basically like batten down the hatches, cut costs, do all of this. And their methodology is right for various reasons and it's wrong for various reasons. But what it actually boils down to is CFOs will spend in places where they know they're going to get a return. And if they don't know, they're going to cut that cost. So the battle isn't necessarily, does our marketing get results? It's being able to prove that it gets results, which is a very different conversation. So for the series on the recession, we're going to be looking at a couple different key aspects, but I'll summarize these for you right now. Number one, cash position, your cash position versus your competitors, and how that affects your sales and marketing program. Number two, metrics and KPIs. What are the numbers that matter in this current environment? Number three, don't arbitrarily cut costs. What are the sales and marketing activities that matter most right now, given the current environment? What happens in a position if you are cash crunched? What happens if you are actually in a cash positive position where you have a war chest? What do you do then? Focusing on existing customers and then basically getting maximum return by tactic. What are we doing to cut costs in the right places or redistributing budget to the right places? Number four, pivoting more into digital because it's more measurable. Number 5, figuring out your customer spending behavior in times like these. And for this, we're going to maybe later on focus maybe a bit more on B2C, and we'll also address some B2B stuff in there as well. So to get into it at a very high level on the cash position, there's really 2 things that you need to take into account. And it's basically looking at yourself versus your competitor's market. Think of this in terms of, are you cash strong or weak? Do you have that war chest waiting for you in these recessionary times? If so, great. And number 2, do you think, and you can't really know this, it's hard to know, but do you think that your competitor is stronger than you or weaker than you in cash position? Because this has to actually pivot the tactics that you're doing. So let me give you an example of this. Your cash position is strong and you believe your competitor's cash position is weak, or you're seeing less of their ads, or you're seeing less emphasis in the market. Maybe they're laying some marketing people off. Maybe they're laying some sales people off. So you're like, oh, okay, like they could be weak right now in their cash position. They're trying to cut costs, save money. In this sort of scenario, you want to push your current cash advantage to take advantage of this situation to generate more market share. So you're basically going to see, okay, they're letting salespeople go, they're letting marketing people go, their budgets, like in terms of the ads that we see in market, are going way down. Yep. Let's push this advantage that we have because they're creating a vacuum in the market through these layoffs and this like budget cut down. Push that and actually double down to take that market share that they can no longer defend themselves.
Yeah, and I was going to say, basically, if you think that obviously you're likely going to have more than one competitor, and if you see the market as a whole retracting, this is a good opportunity for you to push, because if they're retracting specifically on their marketing, then things like marketing costs in those areas are going to decrease because there's going to be less demand, less competition. So you can actually gain a lot more for your marketing spend in those scenarios.
And we actually saw this back during when COVID first hit. We saw people just retract their marketing. It was like the ocean getting sucked out. If you're standing at the shoreline, it's like all of a sudden it's all you saw was the ground. And you could see the media spend being shifted away from like various platforms. And what this did is that costs dropped in certain industries by 70, 80%. Now, will we get something that exaggerated this time? I don't think so. However, it will be there. It's not going to be as obvious as the ocean just disappearing in front of your eyes. A couple other positions here. Your cash position is strong, but theirs is strong. This is about optimization. This is a war of optimization because like you're not going to outspend them to win. So this is about improving your sales and marketing at a fundamental level to outmaneuver the competition. So if your cash position is strong, theirs is strong, or if yours is weak and theirs is weak, like you're equal. So this is a war of optimization of like sales process, marketing process, activities, like all of that, those kinds of things. And the first person who cuts their budget basically loses. It's like a game of chicken. Lastly, the last position is where you're weak. So you're like your competitors have an advantage on you. So like they're going strong, you're experiencing cuts yourselves. So what do? This is where you need to shift over to more of a niche strategy, like a niche-driven strategy, where you're finding underserved niches that your competition does not serve or isn't aware of, and attack those. By doing so, basically you're exploiting untapped opportunities. So this is where you might have to get a bit more experimental with things and do things that maybe haven't worked in the past or that have never basically been tried in the past at all, and see what works through like rigorous testing and watching the data month after month.
Perfect. Again, bringing it back to what we were saying at the beginning, we're going to have a few episodes based on the recession. Obviously, this is super important for you guys right now. So we're going to do a few episodes on this topic. This is just the first one, just to give you that quick overview. Definitely look for the next one. And we will have a white paper also coming out with all of this detailed in it. If you want to refresh it, you can download the white paper. We'll have that available for you guys pretty soon. So thank you guys. And Nick, was there anything else?
Remember to subscribe. Remember to follow us and sign up for our newsletter.
Perfect. And with that, thank you guys very much. See you next time.